I used to think having a twin meant having a reflection that never lied. Evan and I were identical, down to the scar above our right brow, the same laugh that filled a room, and the same quiet way we disappeared when emotions grew too loud. But somewhere between growing up together and growing apart, I realized a reflection can hide as much as it reveals. Evan was the bold one, the one who spoke first, kissed first, lived faster. I was quieter, cautious, analytical, watching the world instead of chasing it. People used to say we were two halves of one soul. They never mentioned what happens when one half wants something forbidden. It started the night he brought someone home, a man named Liam. Evan introduced him casually, calling him a friend from the gym. But the way their eyes found each other said otherwise. There was a charge between them, something unspoken, magnetic, dangerous. I try not to notice, but the human heart notices what it shouldn't. Liam wasn't like anyone Evan had dated before. He was older, confident, and carried that kind of quiet danger that makes you want to step closer, even when every instinct says to stay away. He smiled at me once, not flirty, not innocent, just long enough to make me forget my name. Temptation rarely announces itself. It creeps in, quiet as breath, until resistance feels like pretense. For Daniel, it began with texts that should have been ignored. Liam's words came late at night, glowing against the darkness of Daniel's bedroom. At first, the messages were ordinary, training schedules, workout advice. But soon, they bent into something sharper. You push me harder than anyone else. You make me want to be better. Then later, I can't stop thinking about our talks after practice. Daniel told himself it was harmless, a freshman's admiration for his captain. But the more he read, the less he believed it. His replies grew longer, warmer. What began as mentorship started to feel like intimacy. Ethan never noticed. He kissed Daniel goodnight, whispered encouragement before big games, and slept soundly while Daniel's mind tangled itself in guilt and desire. Ethan's love was unshakable, but Daniel's discipline was eroding. The break came on an ordinary evening after practice. The locker room was nearly empty, the air heavy with sweat and steam. Liam lingered, as he often did, watching Daniel lace his shoes with a grin that bordered on daring. "You ever get tired of being perfect?" Liam asked, his tone casual but his eyes steady. Daniel smirked, deflecting. "Perfection's part of the job." Liam stepped closer, close enough that Daniel felt the charge in the air. "Maybe you don't always have to play by the rules." The word stuck, sharp and sweet. For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. Then Liam's hand brushed his arm, and it was enough. The barrier Daniel had built cracked wide open. Later that night, Liam followed Daniel back to his dorm room under the excuse of reviewing plays. But the playbook never left the desk. Silence hung between them, weighted and dangerous. Liam moved first, closing the gap, pressing his mouth to Daniel's with a force that left no room for denial. The kiss was everything Daniel feared, electric, forbidden, and irresistible. He tried to pull back, muttering Ethan's name like a plea, but Liam's hands were already at his waist, pulling him deeper into the storm. Desire overpowered reason. Clothes scattered, restraint vanished. Daniel surrendered, knowing full well the cost of his betrayal. When it was over, reality hit like a cold wind. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, sweat cooling on his skin, guilt settling heavier than exhaustion. Ethan's face flickered in his mind. The trust, the devotion, the years of loyalty. "This doesn't have to change anything," Liam whispered from the sheets, his tone coaxing, almost triumphant. "No one has to know." Daniel stared at the floor, jaw clenched. The line he swore never to cross was behind him now, and there was no erasing it. He crawled into bed later beside Ethan, who curled against him, warm and trusting. But Daniel's body stiffened with the knowledge of what he had done. For the first time, he understood. The secret thrill wasn't fleeting. It was only the beginning. Infidelity thrives in shadows, and Daniel quickly learned how to live there. By day, he was the reliable captain, the boyfriend who showed up on time and answered Ethan's questions with easy smiles. By night, he became something else, reckless, hungry, pulled into Liam's orbit with a force he no longer resisted. Their encounters blurred into a rhythm. A stolen kiss in the locker room. A hurried touch in the showers. Late-night whispers in Daniel's dorm when Ethan was away studying. The secrecy made each meeting feel like fire stolen from the gods. Dangerous, intoxicating, impossible to resist. Yet double lives always leak. Ethan began noticing the cracks. Missed calls. Messages left unanswered. The faint trace of cologne he didn't own lingering on Daniel's hoodie. He brushed it off at first. Trust was Ethan's nature, but unease gnawed at him. He asked subtle questions, watched Daniel's distracted eyes, and wondered if love alone could blind him. Daniel convinced himself he could handle it. He told himself Liam was just an indulgence, a secret that lived in the dark. But Liam was no longer satisfied with scraps. "I'm tired of hiding," Liam said one evening after practice, voice edged with frustration. "Don't I matter to you beyond these stolen hours?" Daniel froze. Liam's eyes were fierce, searching for something more than lust. "You knew what this was," Daniel muttered, defensive. "You said you didn't care about labels, that the secrecy excited you." "That was before," Liam shot back. "I don't want to be your secret forever." The words rattled Daniel more than he admitted. Because beneath his captain's confidence, he knew Liam wanted what he could never give: open acknowledgement, the role Ethan already filled. And Ethan, loyal to a fault, still planned their future as if betrayal weren't already burning its way through the walls of their relationship. The pressure mounted. Ethan booked a weekend trip for the two of them, a chance to escape campus and reconnect. He spoke about it with quiet excitement, unaware of the storm raging just beneath Daniel's calm exterior. That night, while Ethan showered, Daniel sat on the bed, phone in hand. Liam's message lit the screen. "Do you think of me when you're with him?" Daniel's thumb hovered. His chest tightened. He typed back quickly, almost instinctively, before he could reason himself out of it. "More than I should." The words hung heavy on the screen, heavier still in his chest. He slid the phone under the pillow as Ethan emerged from the bathroom, smiling, towel draped casually around his neck. Ethan leaned down, kissed Daniel softly, and whispered, "This trip will be good for us." Daniel forced a smile, but his heart was already sinking. He was living two lives, and both were beginning to crumble. And in that moment, he knew secrets are never safe forever. The weekend trip was supposed to heal what Daniel's choices had already poisoned. Ethan booked the cabin, packed their favorite meals, and spoke of quiet mornings and long hikes. To him, it was a retreat into love. To Daniel, it was a cage lined with guilt. On their first night there, Ethan waited until the fire burned low before speaking. His voice was steady, almost too calm. "Daniel, who is Liam?" Daniel froze. His breath caught as the name cracked the illusion wide open. He searched Ethan's eyes and found no rage, only hurt so deep it silenced him. Ethan held up the phone he had borrowed earlier that day. The messages were there. Every word Daniel thought was hidden. "I gave you everything," Ethan whispered, his tone breaking more than his volume. "Was I not enough?" Daniel stammered, apologies spilling without shape. Words like mistake and weakness tripped from his mouth, but they sounded hollow, cowardly. Ethan shook his head, tears catching the firelight. "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed us." The silence that followed was unbearable. Daniel wanted to reach out, to anchor Ethan before he slipped away, but Ethan stood and left the room, shutting the door softly, too softly for the storm that raged between them. Back on campus, Daniel sought refuge in Liam. The younger man greeted him with a smile that quickly faded when he saw Daniel's haunted expression. "He knows, doesn't he?" Liam asked. Daniel nodded. For a moment, Liam reached for him, as if offering comfort. But then the frustration surfaced. "So what now? Do I finally get to be more than your secret?" Daniel's throat tightened. He couldn't answer. Because the truth was brutal. He wanted Ethan's stability and Liam's fire, both worlds bound to him. But now one was gone, and the other demanded more than he could give. Liam pulled back, anger replacing tenderness. "I won't be your shadow anymore. If you can't choose me, then don't choose me at all." His words cut clean, leaving Daniel with nothing but the echo of doors closing. First Ethan's, now Liam's. Days later, Daniel walked onto the field, captain's armband snug on his arm. The cheers still rose for him. The team still looked to him for leadership. But inside, he felt hollow. The crowd couldn't see the emptiness carved by betrayal, the loneliness earned by his own hands. That night, he sat alone in his dorm, jersey crumpled on the chair, phone silent for the first time in months. No messages, no whispers, no illusions left to hide behind. He was still the captain, still admired, but stripped of love, stripped of trust. He finally understood the cost of his hidden play. And in that emptiness, Daniel realized the cruelest truth. Sometimes you don't lose because you're beaten. You lose because you played the wrong game. Liam tried to explain, to take the blame, but Evan didn't listen. He just shook his head and stepped back, as if distance could undo what he'd seen. "You were my reflection," he said. "I thought that meant I could trust you." He left before either of us could stop him. The sound of the doors slamming was louder than any storm I'd ever known. Liam moved toward me, eyes wet, voice cracking. "I'm sorry, Adrian. I never wanted this." I nodded. Neither did I, but wanting and meaning are never the same thing. That was the last time I saw him. Evan moved out within a week. Liam disappeared soon after, and I was left with the silence, my punishment, my mirror, my truth. Sometimes late at night, I still see my reflection and expect to see him there, my twin, my shadow, my reminder of what I broke. Desire had given me everything I thought I wanted, attention, connection, meaning, and taken everything that made me whole. Because when love turns to betrayal, what you lose isn't just someone else's trust. It's the version of yourself that was still innocent enough to believe it wouldn't happen.